I get a lot of guys asking about miscellaneous things about the swap, the 5.3 swap. Looking up your alternator motor mounts, gauges and whatnot. Alternator's simple. This is a 105 amp alternator. It's a Delphi alternator. Yeah, you've seen them on Cavaliers, Silverados, Blazers. All it is this, to hook it up rather. You get your main big wire here. I think this is an 8 gauge. Goes right to the battery. Just like any typical alternator, and off the harness here you get this one red wire. It just plugs in back here. That's all it is. And this is the original wire going to the white plug on a typical Delco 45 or 60 amp alternator. That's all it is. The earlier ones, referring to the alternators, mid-90s Chevy trucks, you would have to use some kind of like 130 ohm resistor for it. Not this one. Plug it in and it's at 13.8 to 14.1 depending on load. Simple stuff. Back here, if I can get my hand out of the way, what I'm pointing at is that it's kind of hard to see. There's an it's an adapter. It's a step adapter. You can see it a little better now for the oil pressure line. Autometer sells it's $10. I can't remember the part number off the top of my head, but Summit Racing sells it cheap. It comes with specialized washers and whatnot. For a mechanical gauge, for a mechanical coolant gauge, I made a bypass here. It's out of a top rail from like a fence, something galvanized, something that's going to resist rust. And all I did was use marine weld, put a fitting in here. And this is for the mechanical coolant gauge. And this here, this hose running over here, snaking around, this is the steam vent. You need it. Don't plug it, you need it. Hook it up to your upper radiator hose. My upper radiator hose here is a truck hose. I cut out no less than 14 inches to shorten it because I don't like the way the original one, it snaked around. It's kind of ridiculous. Simple auto parts breather with a piece of brass tube and hose here for the other side of the PCV system. Coil packs. This here's a map sensor. Most vehicles have it. Later carbureted ones had it that were electronic controlled. You need this for your vacuum advance for the MSD box. I'm running a simple carb setup. It's a Holley 3310-750 with 72 jets. Just for now, I'm going to test it out, check the plugs. I might have to rejet it. Other than that, it's a simple hookup. Here's your 2 wires. Here's your tack. Here's your red for your power. And I just kind of have it rigged over here. I mean, not so much rigged, but I want it to be secure. But it's all taped up. This is the original 12-volt power source going to the HEI I used on the olds. And here's my tack line going to my tack. This is a truck manifold. I'm poor right now. I just redid my bathroom. I can't afford headers, so this is what I'm going to work with for the time being. Quick fuel pressure regulator. And the gauge is nice because you need to have it set around between 5.5 to 7 psi. Standard serpentine setup. For the power steering, that's another issue. Depending on what mounts you use, you might have to use a smaller pulley. I lucked out. I haven't put my hood on yet. I mean, I should have enough clearance. I do have a scoop, so I'm not worried about that. Pressure hose here. It's kind of dark. Stock 307 pressure hose, 78 to 88 G body. Anything came with a 260 or anything with an Olds motor. I don't know if the Chevys will work, but this is the Olds. Worked for sure. It was $14. Return line, just standard 1/2 inch or whatever this is, 3/8 power steering line. F-body manifold on this side. The truck one was too wide. Yeah, I know, I kind of mismatched them, but you'll never know unless I told you. Other things to consider, your cooling system. This is a standard 3-core diesel radiator for an Olds. It was the biggest thing I had at the time. And I made a silly little mount. This is a Ford or Lincoln Mark 8 cooling fan. It's 2 speeds, which is nice. So you're not running a whole lot of draw on the system. This is my system. I mean, it's kind of hinky, but Simple little fuse panel, red wire here. This fuse is for my fuel pump. This is for the fuel pump relay, low speed, high speed, for the fan, for 2 speeds, 2 relays, 2 speeds. Lower radiator hose. I don't know how it would work in any other vehicle, but for a G-body, this is a Gates hose, number 20734. I think it's for a Ford truck. It fit really nice, so I used it. In regards to the motor mounts, online they sell CAD drawings. It's a simple plate with holes specifically drilled into it, and I used standard small block Chevy clamshells, the motor mounts, but it's got to be the car mounts, the mounts off the engine, the ears. It cannot be the truck. They're too big. Ask me how I know. Other than that, it's a simple setup. The flywheel down below, all I did was take a whiz wheel with a teardrop bit. I ovaled out the holes because it's a metric flywheel, and standard, I think it's standard torque converter, even though the 200R is a metric transmission. That's interesting. To adapt the flywheel to the converter, they sell a step bushing you use. Hughes sells it. It's $45. It's a big chunk of steel. It's got a step into it. It slips over the torque converter so it mates the flywheel, and actually it hammers into the back of the crank so it mates up the torque converter perfectly. Otherwise it'd be flopping around like a fish. Other than that, it's simple. I mean, I don't know what other questions you guys want to know. The most critical, I guess, are the motor mounts, which are cheap. You can make them yourself. Little ingenuity, you need a drill press and a grinder. You can make them yourself. You don't have to do the flywheel thing I did. You can go buy a flat flywheel or spend a shitload of money, but I don't see the point. The MSD6LS is nice. I got it from a company called Autoplicity out in Illinois. It's a lot less expensive. It saved me $50 over Summit. This one's got the timing pills, which I really don't recommend. It's got 6 pills, 6 different curves, but for whatever reason they seem to give the LS motors too much timing, but it's fully programmable. Any questions, message me, email me. I'm willing to help you out. Thanks, guys.